It wasn't there, and then all of a sudden, there it is, appearing.
Yeah.
And that when you look at that, and it's quite apparent, it's not an airplane of any kind or a missile. It's a UFO.
Well, let me give that feed spot again, where people can pick up on these stories, and they can do their own filtering of what they think is valid and what they don't think is valid by going through them. It's feed spot, just like you feed your family. Feedspot.com. And I know you're going to ask me at the end of this conversation what my website is, so I'm going to give that to you now also.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Van Heyden Books.com, and that's VanHeyden Books, Chaz Van Heyden, Z at the end of Chaz, /ETE for Exiled to Earth. That's the one that's got the free copy of the first book. So if people want that, they just sign up on my mailing list, which is private to me only, and I'll send them a PDF copy of the first book.
Oh, that's interesting. I got to ask you also, Charles, what got you into UFOs? I mean, going back, how many years ago, how old were you, and what got you intrigued?
Grandma, I told you about my grandmother. She mentioned it when I was a little boy. It always stuck with me. And I always was curious about it. I was going, what's an old woman? Well, she was not that old then, but she was much older than I was. What's an old woman going to place out in the desert and looking for strange aircraft, which is what I thought she was telling me about. But I kind of knew she was talking about something alien. I'm still kind of young. But, it stuck with me for all those years. And here and there, I would hear this and that, and it would always be a thread in my mental makeup. So I started writing about it.
Now, did she go looking for UFOs quite often when you were a kid?
I guess so. Remember, this would be back in the days of George Adamus, the 50s, 60s, when I was a little boy, tiny boy. I was maybe 6, 8, 10, I don't know, something like that. She visited us irregularly, but when she did, every now and then she just dropped this little thing about UFOs or Big Rock or something. I'd go, oh, okay, go out and play. Go out and play baseball or something. But it stuck. It stuck because this is why people are listening to your show, Gary, because it sticks their attention on something which is probably true, even though it's controversial. You see? It's probably true. And people are just kind of like, one of these days, like Jackie Gleason, you're going right to the moon, Alice. One of these days, it's going to they're going to walk in, 500 of these aliens are going to walk into the White House and go, we're here to parlay. And that's what people are waiting for.
But it might not be that way. Steve Bassett's going to be on the 7th, and he's been lobbying, trying to get the government to open up about UFOs for years.
Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, last time he was on my show back, maybe 4 months ago, he thought, we're maybe about a year away. I don't know. I've been hearing that going for I've been in broadcasting, doing talk shows off and on since 76. So I've been hearing about it for a long time. So far, it hasn't happened.
Gary, there are so many secret government agencies, and they remain secret because they're out of communication with each other. None of them want to know what the other one's doing or want to let the other agencies know what they're doing. So they're just a bunch of isolated goofballs. And, the people that are doing something would be individuals who have aerodynamics down pat, who have the capability of engineering things. Those are the people you want. Those are your opinion leaders, not government officials, not agency officials.
Yeah, they won't tell you anyway, and if they told you, it wouldn't be the truth. But, the bad thing is, I remember my friend, Art Bell, on his show, he really was upset because a lot of the scientists that were trying to prove that, UFOs existed, and actually that at one point they were at Area 51. All of a sudden there was a group of the scientists, and that was like 4 or 5 of them, over like about a month and a half period, all died off strangely.
Yeah, that happens too. Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that because it could be coincidence, and it just doesn't get us anywhere, even if there has been collusion. It doesn't get us anywhere. Our attention should be on the future, on our lives, on improving ourselves. And this is a sideshow, which is interesting. Sometimes it's titillating. Sometimes it's fascinating. Sometimes it's worth spending time looking at videos or reading books about it. But it doesn't really impact us yet. Not until we get out into outer space and really show that we can go somewhere with technology.
Yeah, but I think our technology at this point, I hate to say it, with a rocket is just not the technology to do it. I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's just it's crazy. And again, I have no problems with us exploring space, but like I said earlier in the show, I'd rather go to the moon first and let's see how long humans can live on the moon before
the moon's in our neighborhood. The moon's a reality that's in our neighborhood. We've been there maybe 3 or 4 times, and we can go back there, and that's where we're headed. That's where we should put all of our attention, our money, and let Elon Musk and what's it called, SpaceX, let them get their, their industrial commercial contracts for putting up more satellites and so forth, and maybe after 20 years, it'll be like we can fly to the moon.
Well, and that's the one thing I do find so strange. Okay, we went to the moon several times, and then we never went back. And then
because it's so damn expensive. It takes so long to get one flight ready. I mean, if you don't have something tangible to bring back, why bother? The space station was good enough. I mean, we got great pictures of the universe. We got to find out what it's like to live in space for 6 months to a year in weightless environments, and we found out that the muscles of the astronauts quickly diminished in size and strength, so they had to constantly be cycling or running around. We found out many things that would have to do with health in space, so it was worthwhile. But no, we weren't about to spend another $50 billion, $100 billion to plant something on the moon. So, but now we've had the space station. We've had big discoveries and so forth about how to survive in space for longer than a couple of weeks. And so now we can take that information and we can put it to use in building a colony on the moon, which would make Jules Verne right 150 years later.
Oh, yeah. Then I keep thinking about Colony on the Moon, and then I think of that TV show, Space 1999.
I didn't see it. Was that been on?
Oh, yeah, that was back, that's like 30 years old, with Martin Muller, or whatever his name was, and his wife, there was a colony on the moon, and somehow, I guess the Earth, we had a major war, and the moon got blown out of its orbit around Earth, and then all of a sudden it's just going out in space, and they're trying to survive out in space, and they have different alien contact. That show was so far ahead of its time, but it just makes you think, we're not ready for it. I hate to say it, unless we have technology we don't know of. Okay, with the technology that I know we have, we're not ready for it. And I'd rather, see the money spent on people on Social Security and medical and things like that, rather than concentrating and dumping that much money to go to Mars, I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry if you're mad at me.
It's big enough and wealthy enough, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, and they have billions and billions of dollars. I wouldn't stop them from doing it, but I wouldn't get too excited about it until there's some results.
Well, he's talking about he wants to go to Mars, and his game plan is to go to Mars like in 2 years. I don't think that's going to happen, but I hate to say it, our technology is so unreliable. That's a long flight.
Yeah, it's 9 months out and 12 months back, I believe. It's at least 2.5 to 3 years round trip if you don't stay there. And if you stay there, it's more like, because you'll miss the opening to go back, and it's like, if you don't get the right time, it's 2 years or 3 years to come back. So you might be there for 5, 6, 7, who knows how many years.
No.
You really goof it up.
Or you planted there.
You're going to run out of food and water real quick.
Oh, yeah. And we don't even know if the water is even drinkable with what's on Mars. Just because it's water, we don't know what bacteria or whatever is in there. Yeah, that's the scary part.
Well, we shall see. We have a future to look at. We have a future to create, that's for sure.
Well, I don't know.
My fingers are crossed on those two things.
Now, I got to ask you a question. What do you think, Charles, if the government came out next Monday and said, hey, look, we've been visited by, such and such race of aliens. They've been, in contact with our government for the last 50 or 100 years. But, how would you feel? I mean, would you be scared at that point? Would you feel
No, because the government, like I said just before, the government has so many secret agencies and compartments. It almost seems to operate on a sub rosa kind of, keep it close to our chest type of operating basis that it would not surprise me. And I think for a lot of people it would be kind of like, well, ho-hum, another government announcement, probably not true.
I don't know. I just keep going back, to Orson Welles, War of the Worlds. Now, I know that people weren't as educated back in the 30s. We certainly didn't have the internet. They had to rely on, radio because there was no TV. But I keep thinking back about how some people really, it didn't catch the beginning of that show. And all of a sudden, they shows you how naive they were. They caught part of the show, and then all of a sudden they thought the Earth was being invaded and destroyed all in about an hour's time. But I keep thinking about that one farmer who loved his family so much he didn't want them to be, killed by aliens. So he decided to shoot his own family to spare them the emotional stress of the invasion, how bad it was going. I don't know. It is sad, but I'm just wondering what, there's going to be a group of people, if anything ever happened, they're going to come back, and I know what's going to happen. People are going to say, why didn't you tell us? Why did you deceive us all these years? Yeah.
Well, it's national security, ma'am, and it's for your own protection. Isn't that what they say all the time?
Yeah, it was a weather balloon.
Isn't that the story?
Well, I don't know. Do you know who Mary Joyce is, by any chance? She runs a UFO reporting center out of Cashiers.
I think you mentioned she had gotten a report that in, Virginia or North Carolina?
North Carolina.
Tell me more about that. Is there caves? There's underground caves?
Well, yeah, she claims, and she also has some people that, give her information, government people, scientists, that, and I trust a lot of stuff she says because she's worked for some major newspapers as the editor and stuff like that. So she is really digs into stuff. And she claims that there's an underground base in North Carolina that it's military, but aliens are working with the military. And she claims that these aliens are the type of alien you would not want to run across at nighttime or anytime because they like humans as much as you probably like going to McDonald's.
But they're with but they're working with armed military?
They're working
military people.
They're working with our government, sharing technology. I guess they're supposedly giving us technology, whatever we're offering them. Who knows? Maybe we're offering them, people in exchange.
Oh God, yeah, that could happen. I could see that. We sacrifice our citizens left and right. That's very possible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, seriously. I mean, if they said, "Hey, look, we want to abduct." For medical research or whatever they want. So many humans a year over a certain amount of time.
I could see that. I could see a contract like that.
Yeah,
but in return, we'll give you X number of technical advancements. Yeah, I could see that.
Oh, yeah, the government would jump on that in a heartbeat. What's 10,000, citizens versus this technology we would have? I mean, that's the scary part. And, she claims that's going on. And I just haven't heard it from her. I've heard it from some other people. And that's the